Alright, today we're going to be working on the front lower control arm bushing on the Oldsmobile Intrigue that I was working on before. You can probably tell that I've already changed the front struts. I did both sides as you're supposed to. Also going to be doing the brakes. They're not completely gone and I'm not getting the rotors turned, but you know, going with what I can afford and what the owner can afford to do. So as you can see, the front lower control arm bushing is torn. They're usually supposed to end up looking, let's see if I can get the box open like this. It's supposed to look like this. No tears, no air holes. This is a factory replacement. Whenever I do mine on my own vehicles, I usually spend the extra money to get polyurethane bushings. They're stiffer and they last longer. But yeah, I got to do this on both sides because they're both torn like this and separating. Now, you may be wondering why I'm replacing these. These can affect your handling, your steering, your alignment, all that stuff. Because as long as that's damaged, your car will most likely never settle in the same spot twice when you're getting in alignment, so they can't point the tires in the right direction. By replacing this one, and eventually the back one, although it's not as bad, and the sway bar end links, which will need to be done eventually. They're not broken yet, but they're getting there. That will pretty much cover the front suspension of this vehicle, other than replacing the springs and the sway bar carrier bushings. But once all that's done, the front end of this will basically be factory tight, good as new, except for this bearing. This one hasn't been replaced. But these are very common things to wear out, things that need to be replaced as you go down the road. This car's got almost 200,000 miles on it, so it's long overdue to have this done, obviously. Well, now you can get a better sense of why these need to be replaced. This is the core of the old one. The rubber's kind of dry and crumbly. There's the sleeve. That's this metal part that's around this one. So yeah, that can actually affect your handling quite a bit. It can actually throw your steering alignment off by over 1/4 of an inch, 1/2 an inch if both sides are bad. So yeah, remember to change your front end and your rear front sway bar end links, because they can have a big effect on everything. There we are, new one's in place. Now, you're going to want to kind of pay attention to the clocking of the holes on some of these. These were separated completely from the inside sleeve, so I'm not sure how much I can rely on the clocking. But usually they're either this way or 90 degrees from this, with the holes towards the outside where it flexes, because it flexes in this orientation. The other side is clocked at about 9 degrees towards the front, or sorry, 9 o'clock towards the front, so it would be facing more like this on the other side, just in reverse, obviously. But like I said, I can't rely on that, and since these are the factory replacements, I don't expect them to last more than about 50,000 miles anyway, so I'm not too concerned about it. But yeah, you just take out the front and rear bolts, take off the sway bar end link, then loosen the 3 bolts that hold the lower ball joint on. Obviously disconnect any wires or anything that might get in the way, and you should be able to maneuver that around and get it out. Now, the inner sleeve came out pretty easy with me. When I opened it up, I guess you can kind of see it. There's 2 different rings in there. I thought the outer ring was actually the one I was supposed to be hitting on, when the inner ring is the only one that moves. So pay attention to that. These are 2 pieces of stamped steel that are welded together or pressed together or something. So that inner, or that outer collar that you see there, is actually the lower half of the stamped steel control arm. You don't want to tear that up too much, because the new one's got to slide up through there. This one slipped right in, barely any friction at all. So I didn't have to fight too much to get the new one in. The old one, obviously, you see I had to bend it and flex it to get it out, but that was just because it was rusted on. But otherwise, it's relatively easy to do. So now I guess I gotta do the other side and then worry about the brakes, and then the front end should be pretty good to go. And that's it. The Intrigue is done again. Front controller and bushings are swapped. Brakes are bled. All the pads have been changed. ABS controller's having issues. I'm guessing the fact that there was actual floating chunks inside the car's brake system has something to do with that. I can keep trying to flush it, but I don't know if it's going to come back. Given the damage the car's had and how old it is, I don't think it's really that big of a deal, but you know, it's always nice to have ABS and traction control and all that shit. One thing to note, the lower control arm on this corner, the front passenger corner, is the exact same piece as the driver's side, just flipped 180 degrees. What that means is, on the other side, the control arm bushing went in from the bottom. On this side, it comes down from the top. Made it a little bit more difficult to get out, but much easier to put in. But yeah, in this instance, the orientation of the part does matter. Not like the sexuality of the driver or anything like that. Yes, that's a dig on that stupid asshole down south who kind of gave all us mechanics a bad name. Yes, the orientation of the socket, or of the control arm bushing, will affect how the arm travels up and down, whether or not it moves back and forth, how it resists shock. In this case, the car used to handle alright. I mean, you hit a bump and it would pull the wheel a little bit. The front shocks were wore out before I replaced them, so you know, it kind of waved going down the road, doing the slow lowrider hop. But now that's fixed. Before I did the control arm bushings, you used to have to clock the steering wheel at about 9 o'clock to go straight down the road. Now it's not about 11, so it still does obviously need an alignment. But one thing I found is there are 2 bolts that attach the top of the spindle to the strut. I don't think I'm going to get enough light in there. One of those bolts apparently got lost, and somebody stuck in the wrong one. So even with it cranked all the way down, the bolt is smaller than the hole, which it's not supposed to be. That allows the tire to move in and out like this. That affects the alignment as well. So that's going to need to be fixed. There is still a slight notch in the steering. I don't know if I can get both of these in the shot at the same time. Apparently not. I don't know if you can hear that. It's a lot better than it used to be, but that slight knocking back and forth tells me that there's something either loose or wore out still. It could be the steering rack, it could be the U-joint and the steering shaft itself, it could be the inner tie rod on one side, it could be any number of things, but I'm not getting any vibration going down the road, so I'm guessing it's just something that's going to be with the car for a while until it wears out more and starts affecting the handling. The owner doesn't seem to mind it, so it's not a big deal.